President of the United States and the leader of North Korea now in Vietnam, Mr. Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un meeting for a second time after their historic summit in Singapore last year. The main topic, once again, the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. CNN's Paula Hancock joins us from Hanoi in Vietnam. Paula, what are we expecting in this second summit?
Well, Pia, any moment now we are expecting that first meeting between the US president and the North Korean leader. Since they've both been in Hanoi, we are understanding that their first meeting will be just the two of them and their interpreters. So they should have about 20 minutes to just talk man to man just before they have all their aides that come in as well. So 20 minutes of a private conversation with interpretation. And then they will have a small dinner. We understand on the US side they'll have the Secretary of State and the Acting Chief of Staff with President Trump, and then Kim Jong-un with his right-hand man and also his foreign minister. So this is really the prelude to the main summit, which will happen on Thursday. But it's the first face-to-face meeting that these two men have had since they met in Singapore back in June of last year. And there are tremendous expectations on this summit, a real hope that there can be something a little more concrete that comes out of this meeting. I think overall the overriding expectation is that there could be some kind of declaration of the end of the Korean War. It's what we've been hearing from US officials, it's what we've been hearing also from the South Korean Blue House, that this could be something the US offers to North Korea so that they can give concessions as well. Of course, what North Korea really wants is lifting of economic sanctions. That could be a little more problematic for the US. Maybe they ask some of the other players in the region to lift unilateral sanctions on North Korea. But really what the US is looking for is more specifics from North Korea, a promise to allow inspectors in, for example, to verify that what they said they have done so far is actually what they have done. So there really is a lot riding on this meeting. Pia?
Yeah, so Paula, a lot of expectations very high, like you said, and something a little more concrete, more details. So all that expectation coming out of there, what happens if we don't see that?
Well, it'll be pretty much as it was after Singapore. There was a lot of disappointment after Singapore that there was nothing more concrete beyond working towards denuclearization. That was a very vaguely worded statement. And it meant that for many months after that, the US really didn't have anything to pin on the North Koreans. They couldn't ask them to stick to their words because the words were so vague. So there really is a hope that this time around there will be more specifics. There are certain elements, for example, like Punggye-ri nuclear test site in the mountains of North Korea, which North Korea made a big show of exploding in front of journalists, that hasn't been verified, that is completely out of use by independent inspectors. The same for a missile test site. The North Koreans say they're not using it anymore, but the international community, the US, wants independent inspectors in the country to verify if that is the case. The Yongpyong nuclear facility, this is a key facility, a very large facility that North Korea has touted that it may be able to dismantle if there are corresponding measures from the United States. But of course, it really does depend on these two leaders. There have been an awful lot of working level talks to try and hammer out some kind of joint statement. But these two leaders have a very unique way of leading. It really depends on when they get inside a room together as to what exactly will be decided. So no matter how much you see behind the scenes, of course, it is up to the two leaders that you can see now. They are meeting each other for the first time since Singapore, walking towards each other, shaking hands, turning to the cameras. Not as many smiles as there was the first time around, but of course the first time around that was history in the making. This time is when there are expectations that progress has to be made. There's a lot more pressure on this summit than there was on the first summit. We can hear Donald Trump making a few comments there. Pia?
Paula Hancock's live from Hanoi in Vietnam.